Welcome, welcome everyone. If you can hear me, just give me a quick thumbs up. Give me a quick what's goody. Give me just something. Give me a like if you're on Facebook to make sure that you can hear me. We're going to get started in just 2 seconds with the beautiful, as you can see, Miss Candace Rice. I'm so excited for this conversation. So if you can hear me, I can see you guys on Facebook and I can see you guys on YouTube. Just let me know if you can hear me. I just want to make sure we're doing good. And then we're going to get started here in just a second. I'm super excited. As always, guys, you know I'm excited all the time. Okay. Okay, I see y'all. Okay, thank you. All right, guys. Well, welcome back to another edition of TTSS Live Chat. This is a special edition. Y'all know I usually do it on Thursdays, but I had to do this one on a Tuesday because I had to talk to my girl here. So I am just super ecstatic to have her here. I know my TV is not just turning on. Y'all, my TV is just turning on in here.
I
I'm
saw.
concerned. Oh, no, it's not. Yo, my TV just turned on. Wait a second.
Yeah, go turn it off.
Oh oh my God. Okay. We're back. My TV just like turned on. That was so weird. All right, guys. My bad. That was weird. So back to normally scheduled programs. So as I said, I usually do them on Thursdays, but had to get in to talk to my girl Candace here on this beautiful Tuesday before this wild week that we're about to have. And so I'm just so grateful to have you here. This is your first time here. Welcome. I am Lauren Denise. I'm the host of this Two Shots Like podcast where we talk about the real of grief, the whole grief, and nothing but the grief. I'm just going to read a quick bio so y'all can get into who Miss Candace is. Y'all see her, but let me just give you a little sauce of Miss Candace. So, Miss Candace Rice is a mother, author, minister, and mental health advocate. Candace Rice developed a passion for writing at an early age. Her transparency has gifted her with a heart for this generation as she fosters conversations about mental health, conveying that believers can have both our strong God and a strong therapist. Hallelujah. Candace received her bachelor's degree in psychology from Bowie State University and a master's degree in social work from Howard University. Currently, she resides in Crofton, Maryland with her sons, Bryson and Braxton. Oh no, there was one part that I wanted to read that was not on here because I need y'all to understand who is on this podcast. Candace has been featured on radio shows, the World Television Network, and several podcasts discussing faith and mental health. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the beautiful Miss Candace Rice.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. So I see you guys coming in. If y'all just want to say what's up or hey, hello, Jasmine. I see you. If you have any questions at all during the time, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I am monitoring Facebook and YouTube. Also, I have my phone. So if you are have my number, I guess you can text me or DM me on Instagram if you're watching from there. So yeah. So with that being said, those are housekeeping rules. But Candace, I just want to thank you for being here. Candace was on episode 4 where
Yeah,
we talked about attempting the episode was called Surviving Suicide because Candace has an amazing story. So with that being said, I wanted you to start out for those of you who do not listen to the episode. That's my y'all didn't listen to the episode face.
that means go back and listen to it.
Go back and listen, okay? It was phenomenal. And I'm not saying that I'm not being biased. I'm serious. It was a beautiful, just inspirational episode. So if you did not listen, go back and listen. But if you can just share a little bit about your story of I think the first question I asked you was, who was Candace? And then we'll, build up to who is Candace Rice. So who was Candace Rice and how did she get to the point of attempting suicide the several times that you had mentioned?
Yeah, sure. So first, thank you so much for having me again. I'm just grateful to share my story with you and your community. So yes, I'm Candace, and that question I always say is so loaded because when I think back on who I was, I just see the depressed and the anxious and the suicidal and the alcoholic. Those are the words that come to my mind, that come out of my mouth. But growing up when I was younger, I witnessed a lot of different forms of abuse. I witnessed it, I've experienced it. And, growing up in an African American household, and even in households outside of my household, as I said in the episode, we always hear that golden phrase: "What happens, in this house stays in this house." And as a child, I kept that and I like took a hold of it. And so when things happened to me or when I experienced things, I became, silent, and I housed a lot of the pain and the trauma that I experienced, to where when I got older, I started running to things outside of the house to cope. So when I became, a teenager, I ran to boys. So I became sexually active, and then as I got even older, I ran to alcohol, and I ran to all of these different vices to cope with some of the things that I experienced as a child that I suppressed and that I never addressed, I never dealt with, I never received the clinical help that I needed at that time for. So I learned how to function and dysfunction at a very young age, that I carried that through my adolescence years, and I carried that through, my young adult years. So when I got into relationships, I equated that there had to be a level of suffering for someone to love me. So I, laid in that. Yeah, yeah. And
Girl,
it was
we're
like
gonna
a
dive
norm
into
to
that.
me. Yeah, it was like a norm to me because I've seen, family relationships. I've seen the trauma and the suffering that they had to go through, and they pressed their way through it and stayed. So it's just like in life, I just learned how to just carry so much on my back, even though I was struggling to carry it. It's just like I'm Superwoman. I have this cape on. I'm a black woman. Black women are strong. We can carry the world. And it's just like that's so exhausting and so not true. But it's generational. Like if we really do a history lesson, it dates back to like slavery. So it's just like that's how I maneuvered through life. And I like, threw myself into achievements, threw myself into education, threw myself, into having this military career, everything because I was masking the pain and the trauma and the hurt that I was experiencing. That, depression, it gives a lot of times when people hear their depression, they think like of sadness, but it's
Hmm.
deeper than that. It's so extreme. Sometimes I can't put it into words what it feels like. You could just think about being like in a room full of people and you still feel like no one's in there but you. You feel so alone. You feel so like just outside of yourself. Like, and it's like an outer body experience. You see yourself striving through life, but you're crying on the inside and asking for help. And I just hit a wall. And the first wall I hit is when I was 16, is when I started becoming suicidal, and I took a bottle of pills and realized the only thing that did was make me sick and that I really didn't want to die. I just needed help and didn't know how to articulate it. And then when I got older, and I started having those suicidal thoughts again, is because I just felt like no one saw me. No one saw the pain that I was experiencing. And then it goes back to that, that black woman syndrome of us being strong and hearing it so much, like, suck it up, get it together, blah, blah, blah. So when I got, when I had my children, my boys, and I got married and all this stuff, it's just like all of the trauma that I was carrying, it was just like so much. And then I went through a divorce. So now it's just like my past trauma and my present trauma colliding for the first time. And I just
Mm.
felt so worthless. I just didn't feel like I belonged here. I didn't feel like my boys deserved me. Like I just felt like they deserved better. And I felt like by me not being here, they I felt like by me not being here, they would have been in a better position. And what I realized, my third and final attempt, which was just a year ago, is that I really never wanted to die. I just wanted the pain to stop, and I didn't know how to get to that point.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There were so many. I've had like 27 questions in my head when you started talking. Like, my God.
Yeah.
What just a powerful story. Look, I'm like, where do I even want to start with this, girl? I just got
It's a lot.
so like hype about all the 27 questions in my head.
Yeah.
So let's maybe go back to we'll go back to the child, the first attempt.
Mhm.
And again, this was something that we talked about on the episode, that at the time you were 16, and like you said, it just kind of had been so much that had happened in your life, and you really didn't want to die. You just wanted someone to hear you. You just
Yeah.
wanted to be heard. Do you think that's the story for a lot of people who do have those suicidal ideations, that they just want to be heard and they don't know how to be heard?
Yeah,
Would
and
you
they don't
say
want to
that's a fair
feel
assessment?
yeah, and they don't want to feel like a burden. And they don't want it's just like you just want your pain to be validated, and not minimized and not dismissed. And then in a world where we put strength on like we put it up here like be strong, be strong, be strong, and you think about things that happen in our lives like death and grief and pain and sorrow and heartbreak and all these things. Yes, we all have experienced it, but when this person has experienced it, give them time to grieve, to mourn, to not be okay. And I think because I never had that chance to not be okay, it's just like I was like prematurely pushed, on the other side of my pain. That a lot of people, it's just like that is so exhausting and debilitating that they just want someone to tell them, hey, you've been through hell. It's okay to not be okay right now. It's okay. And I hear you, I see you, and it's okay to let people mourn. Like the Bible tells us there's a time for every activity under the sun. There's a time to grieve, there's a time to mourn, there's a time, to cry, there's a time to heal. But we don't give each other that grace.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And then it makes you feel like you're already in your mind, you're already in your thoughts. So to hear people around you kind of validate your thoughts, like, I am worthless, I am weak,
Yeah.
I am emotional, I am this, I am this, is like, I am a mother, I am this. Yes, I'm all these things, but I'm also a bruised, hurt woman right now that's trying to heal the little girl in me while still being a woman.
Yes.
It's
Yes. It's exhausting. Like you said, it's exhausting. And that was something that I had to learn in my healing process is I would get so triggered by words like sensitive and dramatic, like ridiculous words, right? Words
yeah,
that aren't crazy, but like you said, it was like validating what I already felt because I was in a hurt place. And
yeah,
so I completely understand that. So
yeah.
let's talk about this strong black woman complex because my God, I mean, we could probably sit here all night and talk about that. We'll try and condense it for you guys.
Ugh, yeah.
But let's talk about that strong black woman complex and why it's not like a terrible thing, but why is it so? Why can it be a harmful thing to black women?
Yeah, it dehumanizes us. Like it makes
Mm,
us, and I think back like to even like generationally, like you think about like the black man, like back in the day being taken from the family, and taken out of the household, and single mothers and all of the stats in that. And it's just like it leaves the woman to be everything, to be everything. And then it's just like we have this mindset. It's just like I have to be everything. But it's just like, but then you put all of these people and things on the list, and then you're the last one, so you never get to yourself, because by the
mm,
time you get to yourself, you're so exhausted that you don't even have nothing to pour back into yourself. So then the next day comes, you go back to this list, and you still don't have nothing to pour into yourself, and you just run out. And I think a lot of us run out and don't give ourselves that same love, attention that we give to others, to ourselves. But that's something that we have been taught, that I feel like now as black women, we're like, no, like I deserve the same amount of love. And I think that's why we like harp on self-care so much, because I
yeah.
realize if I'm not my best, I cannot be my best for anybody. And I think that's something that us as women have to strive to be, to put ourselves on this list and put ourselves up here. Because if we don't, we're going to just continue to just run on fumes and continue to pour into other people's cups, and we don't have nothing but air in ours.
Mm. Come on and just have an air in your cup. So
Yeah.
let's kind of talk about that just as a woman, and then I'll go back to my other thought. But like you said, you're a mother, you have two beautiful sons. So
Hmm.
there's a couple questions I want to ask with this, but I'll start with this one since we were talking about self care and being
Yeah.
strong. How do you put yourself first being a mother, obviously, having to take care of children, you're a single mother, like how does that look for you? Because I can imagine, like you said, that was weighing on you, which was causing you to have these suicidal ideations because it was a bit too much and you
Yeah.
felt like that it would be better for your boys not to be there.
Yeah. So for me, like their father is stationed outside of the state that we reside in. So I have like, family support. But what I realized is that the times where I need help in the moment, it could be in the wee hours of the night or in the morning or during the day. So I realized, and I like prayed and I said, God, I need help because I'm struggling right now. And in order for me to get help to go to therapy, I'm gonna need some extra care. So I wasn't ashamed to say, God, I need help. And I think that's hard for a lot of us to do, is to utter those words, I need help. But I had to
Hmm.
be real with myself and say, I can't do it all no more. And I'm not going to do it all anymore. And I don't care what society tells me I have to do as a mother, as a Black woman. I can't do it all. And I'm not going to do that no more. So I got help. I received help through a nanny that comes to my house to help me. I make
Good.
sure that I take at least 1 or 2 days, like out the week, for just Candace, like all day long. Just doing the things, and it can be simple things like taking a walk, like around a lake or something, but something that fills me up, whatever that is. It could be a long drive, like an hour drive outside of the city and come back, whatever it is to fill me up. Like I have to be intentional about those things because I cannot allow myself mentally, emotionally, or spiritually get back to that low place. Because when I get back to that place, it's like I'm easily triggered to stay there. And I'm like, I can't like let myself get there. It's just like our phones. Well, let me not use this as an example because my phone always dies, but I don't run out of gas. So let me use my
She's
phone
like, not
always,
my phone, guys.
not my phone. Let me not use that one. But my car, like I don't let like my car run out of gas. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Because I know I have children in the back seat. I can't. So when you think about it like that, it's like I can't let my body, I can't let my mind run out of gas because I have children that need me.
Right.
I need me. So I'm more cognizant of that. So I take care of myself and I don't apologize for it. I'm learning how to say no. I'm learning how to do what's best for me. And it is uncomfortable. It's not easy. My voice shakes sometimes when I have to stand up for myself because it's new for me. But I realize like this is all I have. I only have one body,
Mm.
one mind. I have to take care of it.
That's right. I know that's right. So hear that, ladies. Self care, and men, you can do self care too. We're not
Yeah.
shunning you because y'all need self care as well. So don't think we just
Yeah.
talking about women. We talking about daddies too. And if you're not a daddy, just a man. Self care in general is good for your mental health. Moral of the
It is.
story: self care is good for your mental health. And don't be afraid to ask for help. That's a big one. My roommate and I were literally just having the conversation about how we have a cleaner that comes every about month.
Once a month. Me too.
Baby,
I've
because
got
who got time? Not
I don't
me.
apologize for that. Yeah.
Right. But it's that complex of, oh well, I'm less of a woman, or I feel bad. Like, why can't I fold my clothes? Why can't I,
Yep.
vacuum today? Why can't
Yep.
I clean my bathroom? Well, like, let's be clear. Like, the house ain't dirty. Let's just go ahead and
Yeah.
put that out there. But a nice deep clean that you ain't gotta do once a month is a blessing from God. So if you don't have a cleaner, look into one, okay?
Yeah, I'm on that same wave as you. I once a month, a deep clean. Once a month.
Once a month, a deep
Like
clean.
it just takes things off of your plate. And that's the thing
Correct.
about life is like knowing how to delegate and saying, okay, I'm the only person that can do this. That's how I like put them in the categories. Like if I'm the only person that can do this, great. But if I'm not, then I can tap into somebody else, you know?
That's right.
That's a part of
That's
self-care too.
That's right. Outsourcing is my best friend. Thanks, guys. So, on another note, somebody asked this last week, so I'm going to ask you some of the questions that I asked Brian because I think the perspectives will be different, and I think
Yeah.
that's great to hear. So, somebody was talking about like their children, and I know obviously you have children, and we talked about this on the episode as well. Is um, no, I don't want to say knowing the signs, but how do you create a space, or is it important to create a space for your children to be able to come to you in situations? So if they are having suicidal ideations, if they're having depression, if they're doing all these things, how do you, number one, is first of all, is it important to create that safe space? And if it is, how do you create that safe space for them? Maybe if they're in their teenage years, they get weird, they don't want to talk to you. Like, how do you make sure that they do come talk to you so you're not startled, or there's no confusion, God forbid, if something were to happen.
Yeah, I think it's important to create that safe space, but then also to know for some children, it's okay if you're not that safe space, but you
Mm,
create one for them. And what
mm,
I mean by that, I've seen households where, the parent is their safe space and they can tell them about anything underneath the sun. I'm like, oh, you told your mother that? Oh, you told your father? Oh, oh, okay. Like, and that works for them. But then there are some people that they don't want to share certain things with their parents, and that's okay. But as a parent, like if my sons were like that, like they didn't want to share certain things with me, I can create a safe space for them by redirecting them to a safe person to create that space with, to say, if you don't want to keep it here, I'm okay with that, but you need to get it out, or need someone that you could talk to that's safe. So as a parent, you're still creating a safe space for your child, even if it's not you. And I think for some parents it's hard, to I don't want my child to, but it's just like if it's for their well being and it's best for their wellness, then you can create a safe space outside of the home. As long as the child has someone that they can talk to, I think that's like the greatest thing. But I think also for me, and my boys, and I said this on the episode, even as boys, I'm very in tune with their feelings and emotions, and I don't block it. I want them to be able to express themselves because I know one day, God willing, they will be amazing husbands and fathers. And I don't want them to carry any issues that I projected onto them. And
mm.
then they're being emotionally detached from their wives and their children because their mom didn't give them the opportunity to express themselves emotionally, that they don't know how to.
Oh,
So
woo.
yeah, I'm big on that. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's just like, oh, they're boys and boys shouldn't cry and tough it up and da da da. And it's like, even if I don't understand why they're crying, clearly they have a reason. And it's not up to me to understand it or to invalidate their feelings or to tell them you don't have nothing to cry about if something hurts them. Like, yeah, let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to punish them for their emotions because, gender aside, they're human.
Mm,
They have feelings.
mhm.
They bleed, cut just like boys, just like girls do. So I'm very well aware of that. And then also, like as far as signs, I know my oldest son was in an abusive situation with a previous teacher, and because I was so wrapped up in my own pain, in the moment I didn't see the signs, but afterwards I saw them because in children, they may not verbalize what they're going through, but their behavior and their actions would tell you. If your child isn't normally acting out and now they're acting out, something is going on. Or if they're normally talkative and now they won't say a word, something is going on. Or if they're anxious about being in, like for my son, he was anxious about going to school. And I'm like, I couldn't understand why, but he wasn't telling me what was going on. But his behavior, if I tapped into his behavior showed me there's something going on here because he gets anxious every time he has to go to school. So as far as children and signs, as far as depression, anxiety, even suicidal ideation, 9 times out of 10, the sign is there. And if you know your child, you'll see the behavior and see the differences, and not just think, oh my God, they're being a bad child or they're acting out. If you get to the root of it, it's a reason for it.
That was good. So all of y'all parents, that was good. I might have to cut that clip out and put it on because that was really, really, that was good.
Yeah.
For because I think about whenever I have kids and wanting to create that safe space for them to be able to come and talk to your parents. Because I will say, and we talked about this on the episode, and I want you to
Yeah.
kind of talk about this a little bit. Growing up and not seeing the strong Black woman, not seeing your mom kind of have those moments, or allowing you in on those moments, so you didn't know to go to her
Yeah.
when you were having your own moments. How detrimental, and I hate to use that word because it sounds so terrible, but how impactful, I'll say that, how
Yeah.
impactful was that for you when you were having your moments of pain, and like you said, in those moments when you were attempting your suicide?
Yeah, like at that time, I didn't understand it because I couldn't, at that age, I couldn't fathom and understand the pain that my mom was going through, But as a child, it was just like it built up like a lot of anger. And what I realize now that I didn't know then is like our parents are carrying their own pain and trauma that they're navigating through while still trying to be a parent. And it's just like I didn't see it that way as a child, you know? And because my mom is just so strong and I wasn't invited into those vulnerable moments. I just always saw her as superwoman. So it's just like that's what I felt like I had to be when I you know, went through the situations and circumstances that I went through. But it's just like now having a conversation with her is just like as a woman, and it goes back to generations of us being so strong. It's just like I don't want my child to see me broken and this and the third. But again, I feel like it humanizes us, and it shows us it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. It's okay if someone hurts you, that you have to process that and mourn it. It's okay if someone leaves
Mhm.
you, you have to grieve that. It's okay. But not seeing that, it kind of conditioned me to kind of just, oh, you punch me, I'm gonna just like turn the other cheek or slap me on the turn cheek. And I'm like, God, my cheeks hurt. Okay, like I'm
Ah!
the other cheek. Like I just, but it just goes back to that generational thing. And I think now, like we're doing such a good job. Like now it's just like my mom and my grandmother, all of us is like we can have these conversations because now they see like we need it. It's important to have. So it's just like now it's like I want to create that for my children and my children's children and their children's children. Because like you said, it's very impactful and it also is conditioning as you grow up. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's real. So something else that we talked about that you actually commented on, oh Lord, is that trauma bonding in those relationships, and how that can be impactful and causing some mental health issues. We'll
It
say.
does.
So let's talk about that relationship that you were in. Well, we're not going to give them everything we talk about on the podcast because y'all need to
Yeah,
listen. However, we will talk about a little bit of the relationship that you were in that trauma bonding. Because when I tell you, that's a whole episode that we're gonna do. Because baby,
yeah,
hey, there's a whole bunch of people on here
yeah.
probably watching who are trauma bonded with someone right now.
And don't know it.
Don't even know it.
Yeah, and don't know it. And to put context to what trauma bonding is, I know for me, um, trauma bonding can be blinding if you're not aware of it. But for me, it's mistaking shared trauma as a sign of compatibility. Like you just want to, like I said, in our episode, love the hell out of someone. Like literally,
Hmm.
love the pain and trauma and the hurt, out of someone. And it's just like none of us, I don't care how good you think things, you got it. Okay. I'm trying to say this in a clean way. But no matter how, us as women, like we think we just, our love is just like, just so out of this world that we could change people and not realizing that it's really changing us. And that trauma bonding and mistaking it as compatibility is just like once you get with a person, you realize that the foundation of the relationship is trauma. So when it's based on trauma, when your trauma and his trauma collide, it's not pretty. Because now it's just like not only are you navigating through the love thing, you're also navigating through trauma and pain that's messy, and you're trying to love the hell out of somebody, trying to love and save someone else, and you couldn't even save yourself, you know?
Mm.
So it's just like that bonding, and it's codependency. It's if you're sad, I'm sad. When you're happy, I'm happy. It's just toxic. And that word is like heavily used, but
So overused.
it's heavily used, and I wish I'm trying to think of another word, but it's the first thing that
That's
came.
okay. Yeah,
Oh,
that's fine.
because that's just so
We
heavily
get
used.
it. Yeah.
But it's just like it is though, because it's just like your trauma that you're bringing. Because when you are joined with someone, not only are you joining hearts, you're joining minds, you're joining childhoods, you're joining trauma, you're joining how this person was raised and that person is raised. And it's just like trauma can be so magnetic And you know the term, misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
So does trauma. And it's
Mm.
like sometimes for us that are housing so much trauma, and we're navigating through life functioning because we think we're okay. It's just like we have this like healing syndrome or superwoman superman syndrome, where it's just like we just want to save others and just love them and give them the love that we feel like we didn't get. So it's just like all that trauma bonding. It's like you don't realize it until you're in it. And that's the part. It's just like you don't even realize it until you're in it because you mistake it for compatibility. But what really bonded y'all was all the pain and trauma and hurt that y'all been through. Y'all recognized it
Mm.
in each other. And it's just like, Dad, you went through that. I went through that too. That person did that to you. You got cheated on. You got left. You got to be, oh my God, tell me. And it's just like y'all create all these conversations, and then you fall in love, and then you get in it, and then you realize, wait a minute, yeah, we fell in love, but this person is still wounded. This person is
Right.
hurt. This person, and I can't help you because I'm trying to help myself. So it's like the trauma is just sparking off of one another, and it's just not healthy.
Woo.
It's just
Baby.
not healthy.
That's why I said that's a whole episode. So
It is. It is. I realized in my relationships, that's what it was for me because I equated love a different way from a different mindset, that I always got into relationships because I'm a helper. I just want to fix everybody,
same.
everything. And I'm like, Candace, but you gotta fix like here first.
Like,
Like,
girl, fix
like,
yourself.
yeah. So it's just like that's where I'm at in life. It's just like, all right, I got it. God, I got the lessons. I don't want to go through any more lessons. I'm like, I'm an expert at this now. This trauma, pain, heartbreak thing. Now it's just like, let me take the lessons and actually learn from it and put it into use and do what I need to do so I don't go back to having another trauma buddy.
Oof.
It's
I
just
hope y'all
like,
were taking notes because, baby.
yeah,
So, like I told you, I listening to you say it again, I think of relationships that I was in that I definitely feel like there was some trauma bonding there. And at the time, I didn't understand what it meant to be talking to that little girl inside of you or that little boy inside of you. I didn't even,
yeah,
I heard it, but then when I went to therapy, my therapist is like, "Hey, let's talk to that little Lauren." I'm like, "Ain't no little Lauren in there." She in there, girl. Hey, girl. So,
yeah,
looking at those relationships, I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that probably wasn't the greatest idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably wasn't it. I
It's the
mean,
little girl in us that are making these decisions though. And we
that's
don't
it.
realize as adults, it's like we're in our adult bodies, but it's like the little girl in us are still making those decisions.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's a lot of it is when we're talking about, someone who is attempting or something, you have to think about it. Like when you don't give a child attention, that what do? They start acting out, like you said, they start doing crazy stuff. So imagine being a 33-year-old
Yep.
and not giving that little Lauren or that little Candace attention. What are they going to do? You don't hear me, so I'm going to do something so you can hear
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So it makes complete and utter sense. And so something else that we talked about, which I thought was really important, because you hear again about all these celebrities who are committing suicide, and you're
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, well, like they have money and they're doing it. Like, why would they do that? But you said that you yourself was getting all these accolades, getting your master's degree, going to school, doing all these things, but you still were unhappy inside. You still had those thoughts of suicide.
Yep.
Let's talk about that, about when people see these people who are achieving wonderful things, who are successful, and they commit suicide. Kind of bring me through where you were at that moment, and maybe people can understand that mindset, because suicide, like you said, somebody's not under the bed crying. They could be super wildly successful but
Yeah.
have demons inside or have hurt inside of them that's causing them to do that. So if you can kind of take me through where you were at in that space when you were getting all these accolades, but you still were unfulfilled, I'll say, inside.
I think that's the biggest thing is you can have everything in the world and still be unfulfilled.
Hmm.
Because you're still wounded, you're still open, you're still carrying those past wounds and hurts that have never been addressed, that's never been healed. So you're carrying all of those into these new spaces of accomplishing so much, you know. So you see people that like throw themselves into like their jobs, throw themselves into their books, throw themselves into, you know, education, throw themselves into things so they don't have to deal with themselves. And that's what I did. It's just like I threw myself into all these things because I got so used to not feeling and not dealing with the root issues and dealing with myself that I gained what I thought was fulfillment from all of these things. But then
Mm,
when I sat with myself and when I, you know, unpacked, it's just like I'm still dissatisfied with life and with
mm,
living. But I have my masters and I'm ministering and I'm doing all these things like God, why? And he's just like, you survived all of that stuff. And that's
mm,
the difference between surviving things and healing from things. It's just like, okay, after you survive, then that's when the healing is supposed to take place. But for many of us that wrestle with depression and suicidal ideation, all we do is survive and we never heal. We just survive
mm,
the next thing and keep going, survive the next thing and keep going, and you never heal from anything. And you throw yourself into all of these things that on paper, on the outside, look great. And that's it's just like everybody was saying that, well, you have your masters and you're this and you have boys and you have this and you have that. And I'm like, but I also have this pain and trauma that is still like sitting in my heart, sitting in my mind, sitting in my soul that hasn't been addressed. So everything that's around me in my mind, I could give, I could care less about, you know. But it's just like, how do you say that and not be attacked, you
mm.
know, or kind of be minimized or dismissed, or, you know, well, you have more than I have in life. And it's just like, so you never can look at those things, because I know there's people that don't have a lot but have so much joy in their heart, and then people that are billionaires and millionaires, as you stated, and are so depressed and
Yeah.
struggling, you know. um and I think for me that was something that was big. I wasn't fulfilled, you know,
Yeah.
because my body was like housed with so much pain and trauma that I never dealt with, that it's just like I just learned how to be a functioning adult. Like, you know how you say like functioning alcoholic, like I would have never, until this year, I would have never called myself an alcoholic. Like honestly, when I was younger, like, yeah, I was getting it in. But as I grew older, I thought I matured in my drinking. I know that's
Right.
like just how I'm about to define alcoholic.
That's
But
okay. Fine.
it's just like I just was like, all right, I'm not doing it the way I was doing it in the past. I'm not, you know, overly intoxicated. I'm still paying my bills, still taking care of my children, still doing all these things, but I was functioning. Like
Mm,
functioning alcoholics are a real thing. Just like, you know, functioning people that persons that are depressed. It's just like you just learn how to still get things done. You
right.
just learn how to function in it. But realizing that for me, like even with the alcohol, the problem is like when you're using another substance or a vice or whatever to cope, that's a problem. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, when you think of alcoholics, you think about your auntie, uncle, like out in the corner. You think about
Right.
somebody stealing and robbing.
Right.
You just think the worst. And it's not that at all. Like you could look at me and you would never think like, what, you know, like
No.
there's no look to it. You know, there's no class to it. There's no low class, high class. There's no discrimination when it comes to depression, when it comes to suicidal ideation, when it comes to alcoholism, when it comes to all these different things. It doesn't discriminate. Your faith, nothing, like none of these things discriminate. You know, you from experiencing it. So it's just like we have to stop looking at what people have and start looking at people.
Mm. That's powerful. Stop looking at what people have and start looking at people. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the people who are not necessarily caregivers, but have never dealt with maybe somebody
Yeah.
who has struggled with mental health, and you come to them and say, this is what I'm struggling with. And like you said, they're like, oh, girl, well, you fine, or what you upset about, or whatever. How do you tell those people who have never dealt with it? How do they approach that, and the people who are like, girl, you fine, like,
Yeah.
let's give some better ways on how to
Yeah.
approach those situations when someone does come to you.
Yeah, I think the greatest thing is to remember like God gave us two ears and one mouth for a reason. You know, do more listening than you do talking, because for a lot of us that have and are experiencing depression and suicidal ideation, we just want to be seen and heard. And when you don't know what to say, because it's okay, you know, I don't always have the right things to say, but to know that your presence is more powerful than the words that can come out your mouth. Because when I was in the rut of my depression, honestly, Lauren, I don't even think there was anything anyone really could say that make me to bring some type of comfort and relief to me. Um, but to just sit with me and say, you know, even if you say, I may not understand, I may not have the right words to say, but I'm going to sit with you in this. I'm going to pray for you, to give people space to not be okay. And I say this all the time because I want people to understand it. Like, the people that say, oh, suck it up, or I've been through the same thing and I got over it. You may think you've gotten over it. You just really suppressed it, but you may think you gotten over it. But to know you're built differently. All of us are built differently. All of us are wired differently. All of us have different histories, you know? So what may be tolerable for you may be terminal for me. And that's okay. That doesn't make me less than. That doesn't make me weak. That doesn't make me anything. It just means that because of what I've been through thus far in my life, and because of how my brain is wired and how my heart is wired, this hurts me. And it may not have hurt you the way it hurts me, but it's detrimental to me. And give me the same grace and love that you want God to give to you to me right now, to just give me space to not be
Mhm.
okay. And I think that's the biggest thing for people, is to validate our pain and our emotions, to say, you know, it's okay not to be okay, you know, and not try to prematurely rush them through it or say, suck it up, get it together while they're still bleeding and while they're still hurting, you know?
Mm.
I think that's like the biggest thing for caregivers, is just give space. And it's okay if you have to be silent. That's Silence is way better than the insensitive comments that can come out of someone's mouth.
Yes, and we talked about that as well. In those heavy times of grief, like sometimes I just need to sit on the phone and breathe with people, or just
Yeah,
go and sit at their house. Like, I don't want to talk about anything because I have nothing to say. I just don't need to be by myself.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just need to be
And that's
here,
okay.
and that's fine. And so I think, so if
Yeah.
you're listening and you are in that space, give people the space to not be okay. And something that you said on the episode, which I'm not going to give you all because you need to listen, but you talked about basically if someone comes to you and tells you these things, to let them have the space to do that,
Yep.
and don't try and do I don't want to say a comparison, but
No,
like
that's
you
it.
said, a comparison.
Comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, like, oh well, girl, yeah, that one time I got fired too, girl. So that's what I did. I don't,
But you
I don't
left
know.
out the part that you found a job the next day, and now
Yep.
weeks, 2, 3 weeks later, and I'm still. It's just like, tell the whole story.
Right. Tell the truth. Tell the truth, guys. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
So no, that's good. But if y'all listen to the whole episode, y'all will hear the rest. That's all I'm gonna give y'all. Anyways, so a question that I asked Brian that I wanted to ask you, I want to get your perspective from someone who has attempted it. Do you think suicide is a selfish act?
No, I don't, and I'm so glad. Oh my gosh, that's the first time anyone has ever asked me that question, and it almost brings
Really?
tears to my eyes. Yeah, it almost brings tears to my eyes, because I remember that is one of the things someone told me when they found out I was suicidal. It was just like, how selfish of you. You have boys and da da da. And, you know, the more I sat with it and the more I asked God, was just like, God, I don't want these thoughts. I don't want these thoughts. You know, I realized, you know, people don't really understand what mental illness is. They say it, mental illness, mental illness. And it's just like, but are you listening to what you're saying? Mental illness. What's an illness? An illness is a sickness. So if you think about a physical sickness, you wouldn't tell that to someone that's body is being taken over by a disease. Like, you're being selfish and da 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 da. And it's just like, mental illness is real. And I think because it's mental and you can't see it, you can't see, you know, there's scientifically, it's been proven how trauma in pain can change our brain and rewire our cells and our functioning. And our mind, our brains determines our behaviors, our thoughts, and our actions. So if
Hmm.
our brain is being rewired because of the trauma, it's going to impact those things. So it's just like for those that are wrestling like with suicide, ideation, I always say if I hear that somebody has passed away due to it, I say they died due to suicide and they didn't commit. Only reason I don't say commit is because no one really like commits to that. It's like it's the
Hmm.
sickness. It's just like a part of my brain is just like, Candace, are you really thinking about this? The boys, da da da. And then the other part is just like those thoughts were so real too. And it's just like trying to kind of navigate between it like just if you can see me trying to explain it, so you can only
Yeah.
imagine like my brain, like, so it's just like it's not selfish because no one in their right frame of mind would do this in their right frame of mind. So that lets you know the mind isn't right. Like like even looking back on it now a year later, I'm like, God, thank you. Like I can't imagine the pain that I would have transferred onto my boys and to my mom and to my grandparents and my family and friends. But in that moment, like I said, the pain and the trauma is so blinding. If you think about trauma from a physical standpoint, like if you think about physical trauma, like you got into a terrible car accident, it knocks you out. It causes amnesia. It causes memory defects. It causes all of these things. Mental trauma, like, it does the same thing. You just can't see it.
Yeah.
You just can't see it. So no, like, because I think people equate suicide with selfishness because they think it's a choice. It's your choice to
Mm.
act, not realizing it's the sickness. So when you take the person out of it and look at it for what it is, mental illness, you can't use that phrase, oh, it's selfish and oh, it's this, because the person has detached. Now we're just looking at the sickness, the illness, you know? So,
Yeah. No, that's good because I've heard that from you. I've heard that now from Brian that it's not the person who wants to do it. It's the sickness that is making you do it because you just want whatever it is, that pain, those voices, whatever is happening, you just want it to
stop.
stop.
Yeah.
And in the moment, like you said, you feel like that's the only thing that can make it stop
Yep.
because you've tried every other thing. You've gone to therapy, you've taken the medicine, and like you said, and again, I think it's just it's just so, and I try not to get emotional, but it's
Yeah.
it's really just amazing to me. Like Brian last week, someone who's dealing with or living in, shall I say, the aftermath of losing his wife to suicide, and then you attempting and being so open and honest about your story, and just the connections that y'all have. Because he was basically talking about how like the medicine that Brandy was taking was kind of rewiring her brain, and the mental illness is rewiring. So it just makes you look at it different. And again, it's not, let me be clear, like we're not here to glorify, suicide, and we're not here to say it's a great thing and it's not selfish, and none of that is happening. And also be clear, neither one of us, well, Candace went to school for psychology. I did not. So don't be trying to come up on here talking about, well, they said no, no, no. Just
No,
here
but we want
sharing
people to
our findings.
understand the mindset of it,
Right.
education, to understand the mindset of it, to know that it's a sickness, to know that it's a disease, and to know that, especially within our, community, and when you put faith in it, a lot of people say, oh, just pray your way through it, da 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 da. It's just like you wouldn't tell that to somebody that has a physical illness. You would have been like, all right, we're gonna pray, but you need to take your butt and first thing in the morning down to doctor da 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 da. That's what you would say.
Right.
So it's the same thing. So to know that, hey, we're here to educate and inform, but then also to know that there's clinical assistance on top of our faith or whatever your faith may be, that there's help. And that was what helped me, is to get into therapy weekly. Like I really had to be intentional about it, and I had to set boundaries. I had to really, really protect myself. And I'm still doing it. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring out all of my triggers. But yeah, it's just like you have to separate the person from the illness. And for a lot of people, that's so hard to do.
Yeah.
You can't see it like you can a physical illness or a physical wound. You can't see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So I, again, try not to get emotional. Let me just move forward. Because I cried on the left. I'm not crying on this one, Candace. Okay. You're not about to get me crying in here.
Yeah, yeah.
So, let me just okay. So, if you're comfortable sharing, I want you to share like your last or your excuse me, your final attempt story because I think it was really powerful how you shared it and how you stopped, or how God really stopped the plan from happening. Because
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to see literally like what you were about to do and the how again a year later how you done a complete 180.
Yeah. So last year it was around Christmas time. At that time it's just like I just hit a wall that I was telling you about. I just hit this wall where it's just like you think about a runner and it's just like if you wasn't training, you're just going and going and going. It's just like you just run out. And that's what I did. I just ran out and I said, God, if I get to a point where it's just like I run out and I don't have my kids with me, then, that's it. And during that time, Christmas, it was the first time that the boys wasn't with me all day. Their father and I split them up that day. So, like, when they left with him, the next day, I woke up and it goes back to that dissatisfaction with life. I was just tired. I was tired of hearing "suck it up, get over it." You're not the only one. I was tired of hearing, "Oh, you're being selfish. Oh, you got your master's in this. You should know what to do. You're a minister. You should know what to do." And it's just like I think about like a doctor that got his PhD in medicine. Like if he had like a wound and he was bleeding out, like even though he's a doctor and he knows what to do for someone else, he's not gonna be in the space to do that for himself. I needed someone to do that for me. You know what I'm saying? I just was tired, and I remember that evening getting a picture from my ex-husband of the boys, and they were smiling. And I remember, like like on TV, how you see like the devil on one side and then an angel on the other side, and they're talking
Yeah.
to you. Like that's like I know that's in TV world, but for me that's real because I saw that picture and I was just like, Sodom was just like, see, Candace, they're gonna be good. They're gonna be, good without you. They don't need you. You're this, you're that. And then it was just like on the other side, God is just like, look at what you're going to leave behind. Like look at them. And like Lauren, I had a whole plan. Like I started stacking money. I started like reviewing life insurances. I started like putting my mom like on like all of my emergency plans and contacts. And I live about 15 minutes from the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. And like coming up to that night, I had so many dreams about drowning, um, about just running off the bridge. And I remember like that night. I remember that night, and I was just like, God, I'm tired. I'm tired of being here. I just didn't feel like no one cared. I didn't feel like I was just tired. And I remember going to the door, I had my keys, and God didn't even let me like leave the house. Like I was about to get in the truck. He didn't even let me leave the house. And in that moment, it's just like as soon as I touched the door and I could feel like the breeze from the air like starting to come through the door, it's just like I instantly like just broke down and started crying because I felt so much remorse and like regret before I even opened up the door because I was like, if I get to my truck, like I'm just gonna run off the bridge. And it's just like God didn't even let me get to that point. And what I realized in that moment is that I didn't want to die. I just wanted the pain to stop. And
Mm.
I just, I just was tired of bleeding. Um, and after that night, I said, God, if you get me through this final time, like I'm gonna heal soberly and I'm gonna do my work. And I've been doing it for a year now. I've been doing my work for a year now. And like tomorrow, January 20th, I'll be a year sober. So yeah, so it's been a year. It's been a year, and I'm just thankful for that because what I realized, like I said, is that I have so much living to do. I have so much life to live. I have so much things to see and experience with my boys that it's just like now it's like I have the tools that I need in my toolbox for me um, to just continue on this journey in a healthy way, you know? So,
I love it. I'm so proud of you for just the resilience, honestly. I was trying not to get emotional, as you saw. I was trying to
I
keep it
was trying
together.
not to.
I was trying to keep it together. I was like,
I
don't.
was trying, yeah, but yeah, because you don't realize like everyone doesn't. Thank God, like I had that revelation in the moment, but there are so many people that don't, and
Yeah,
and it's just like um a suicide survivor that I know of. His name is Kevin Hines. He actually jumped off of the Golden Gate Bridge in California. Yeah, California. And he always told me, he's just like, as soon as I jumped, as soon as I hit the water, I was just like, God, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And he was like, and if I die, no one is going to know that I really didn't want to die and that I'm so sorry I made this decision. And so many people that are not here, it's just like they can't tell that to their families.
yeah,
Is that I really didn't want to make this decision. I didn't want to make this decision. And thank God, Kevin is still here to tell that story. But he was just like, it was an animal. I don't, not an animal, but something in the water that lifted him back up to safety. Um, but yeah, it was just like in that moment, as soon as he went underwater, he was just like, I don't want to die. And I thought about that and I'm like, God, thank you for not even getting me to that point, to that bridge, because no one would have known that I didn't want to do this. So,
yeah.
yeah.
All right, let me just gather myself for a second, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's just, I don't know. I just think about that sometimes. I think about the number of people that, die due to suicide and how they're not here to tell their truth and their story that, like, I didn't want to do this, and it's just like I thought about it, just like I would have been doing is transferring my pain to my children, to my mom.
Yeah,
It's just like I wouldn't have been able to tell them like I'm sorry, I didn't, I didn't know what else to do, and I wanted to tell you how much pain I was in, but I just didn't want like you. Those conversations you don't have, and it's just like now, thank God I can have those conversations now with my mom because I'm still here to say, hey, this is why I didn't come to you at first, and I'm sorry, and she can say I'm sorry, and we can have those conversations because so many people are still living with that regret thinking. And I don't know if Brian shared this, I can't remember it, but like a feeling like what did I do or not do, and
yeah.
living that guilt and that regret, and it's just like if they can only tell them like,
It wasn't you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Woo! All right. You know what? I got one more question for you, Candace, because you want to play with me today, and I'm not about to be over here emotional. Okay. Too late. Um, What do you say to that person who is watching, who is struggling with those suicidal ideations, and they feel like, you know what, like I am a burden to that person or persons. Nobody cares. I just want to be heard. I don't want to die, but this is the only way to make it stop. What do you say to them to hopefully help them not make that decision to take their, I don't want, like you said, not commit, but take their own life
like,
in suicide,
yeah,
by suicide?
for someone that's listening right now, coming from someone who has tried several times, um, giving yourself permission to not be okay, giving yourself permission to take off the cape, giving yourself permission to take off the mask, giving yourself permission to know that there's strength, so much strength, so much strength in just saying, I need help. I think that's the hardest thing for so many of us to say because, like you said, you don't want to be a burden. You don't want people to worry about you. You don't want people to know how much pain you're in. And it's just like you get to a point where it's just like If no one else sees it, I'm just gonna say it. Like I'm not okay. And just trust the person that you're sharing it with. I think for many of us, we know who that safe person is. We just don't want to be a burden on that safe person. Like you, I think I just believe that we know who we can trust and who we can't trust due to other situations and experiences, to say, if I tell this, if I can get it, if I can just utter the words, I need help, even if I have to text it, even if it can't, because sometimes it's hard to articulate that. It's hard to articulate it. And I had to get to a place where it's just like, I'm already tired. Like, I already don't want to be here. Let me just, I need help. I can't do this. And I think when you do that, it creates a safe space for you, but then it also gives you the gateway and getting the help that you need. Therapy is, I'm such an advocate for therapy because therapy has been life changing for me. And there's so many resources out here for free therapy. And then also, for someone that's listening, if they're faith is as important, to you as it is to me. I use a combination of biblical and clinical principles, like as far as being, suited, rested somewhere within your church, but then also receiving, that clinical help from a therapist, and then also like a trusted friend. But just the biggest thing is just being not okay, and it's just like it's okay to not be okay. Like, you've been through hell and back again. It's just like you have every right to not be okay, no matter what the naysayers say, no matter what your auntie say, your uncle, whoever. That's not your person. Like, and that's another thing I had to realize. And I pray that as you listen to us, you'll realize who your people are and who are not your people. And just because they're blood doesn't mean this, because it's so close to your heart, that you don't have to share it with everybody, because everyone is not equipped to handle it. They're not equipped verbally to handle it. And you don't want to share your pain with someone that's going to attack you for your pain. So that's why I said, you kind of, and if you don't know, your spirit knows. That's the last thing I'm going to say. If you don't know who that safe space is for you, your spirit knows, because you can tell by how your spirit and how your body reacts to conversations. Like, if I have a conversation with you, Lauren, and then I leave the conversation and I feel at ease, I feel like you heard me, you saw me, you didn't try to compare traumas. It's just like you just listen to me, compared if I talk to somebody else and they're attacking me and I feel worse, like, than I already felt before having this conversation with you. You know who those safe spaces are. So your body tells you, your spirit tells you. And I believe that God gives us that. So if you tap into that, just create a safe space and say, hey, I'm not okay. Yeah.
I love that. So if you're listening, like she said, and you are having those thoughts, just know it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
It's totally fine, and find that safe space and get the help. And I think this is something that Brian said, that there's bravery in asking for
Oh,
help. That's a brave thing to do.
yeah.
Because nobody wants to seem, like you said, a burden, or nobody wants to seem like, oh, I need all this help, or, but it's braver to say I need help than to not say it, and to choose to, um, or your sickness to take over and remove yourself from this world because you
Yeah.
were afraid to say I need help. And
Mhm.
again, I understand, like you said, there's different people, so make sure you'll know, because like you said, I've had conversations too with people, and I'm like, ugh, like, what did I even
Yeah.
call
Why
you?
did I even call? Yep.
Why did I even call you? So you'll know.
Scratch them off
So
the list. Yeah. Yeah, and I
scratch.
do that. I'll journal, and like, and I've created it in my journal. Like, when I'm having a moment, this is my trusted. This is, I call it my healing circle. These are my
Mhm.
trusted people within my healing circle that I know will counteract the negative thoughts. Like, if I feel like I'm the worst person in the world, they'll say, "No, you're amazing." If I say I'm this, they're gonna say, "No, I'm beautiful." If I say I'm this, "No, you're that." I have people that know my story, that know my trauma, that know my pain, that can counteract those thoughts. So it's like once you find that space of, of people, it's like tap into that. And it's okay if I had to learn, it's okay if your best friend isn't in there, this person isn't in there. It doesn't make them less of a friend, less of this. It just means they're not equipped to handle this part of you. So, yeah.
I just adore you, Candace. I really do. You're just a gem, you are. So, if you can tell people about your book and then
Hmm.
tell them where they can find you so they can get in contact with you, because I'm sure people are definitely going to want to reach out to you, especially those parents, because Hannette, they had questions and I can't answer them for those parents.
For sure. Yeah. So my book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million. It's called Breathe, Rest, Reflect, Reset. It's part Bible study, part memoir detailing my battle with depression and anxiety and alcoholism and suicidal ideation and my journey that led me to those suicide attempts, and then the journey that I'm on now of healing and what that looks like for me. So yeah, it's available on those sites, and you can follow me on all social media outlets. It's Candace Writes, and yeah, that's how you can get in contact with me.
Oh, I'm so excited. Actually, I'm going to do a giveaway. I told Candace I was going to do a giveaway for
Yeah.
her book. So, if you're not following me on Instagram, it's TTSS Pod. It's over there in the corner. Follow me there because that's, well, I'll put it on Facebook too. Let me be nice. I'm putting it on Facebook too. And how to enter to get her book.
Yeah.
Because I definitely know it is going to save someone's life. So, Candace, I just want to thank you again
Thank you
for
for having
being
me.
here. Of course, girl. Thank you for being on the episode. If you have not listened to her episode, it is season 2, episode 4, called Surviving Suicide. Go back and listen. It's absolutely amazing. Again, not being biased, I'm being so serious, so inspiring. We go a little bit deeper than we did here. Well, I think we went pretty deep here, but
You did, but we go a little deeper.
right,
A
we
little
go a little
deeper.
bit deeper, but it is
Yeah.
available on all listening platforms and YouTube. So, with that being said, thank you guys again for being here for another edition of TTSS Live Chat. I know it's usually Thursdays, but we had to do a Tuesday for my girl because I had to get my boo Candace in here. So, thank you guys again. I know we're about to go into a crazy day tomorrow. So, as I always say at the end of my show, I'm sending you guys love and light in your life because you deserve it.